Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the second week of the Festival of Startups, day one, session one. I'm your host, Alex Chisnell. I'm Director of Content here at the Festival of Startups and host of #1 rated entrepreneurship podcast, Screw It, Just Do It. And I'm joined all the way from Singapore by Magnus Grimmerland, who is the founder and CEO of Antler, a global startup generator and early stage VC. Good evening to you, Magnus.
Good evening, Alex. Great to be here. Thanks a lot for having me.
I appreciate you coming on again, really do. Thank you, everybody. If this is your first day at the Festival of Startups, you can catch up on everything that happened last week. Had some really good talks. Everybody from Stepan Galiev, investment director at Dragon's Den, through to Piers Linney, former Dragon himself, Rowena Bird, founder of Lush, Lord Billamoria, founder of Cobra Beer. We had all sorts of talks, so literally you just need to go to the Festival of Enterprise YouTube channel to find out all that. And we've got a great day ahead for you. So kicking off now, as I say, we've got Magnus. We're talking about what he looks for when investing. As I say, they are a global startup generator, early stage VC. As such, they've invested in, Magnus probably correct me, but 190 plus companies worldwide in 8 different locations. And they've established the world's largest early stage investment platform. Am I close?
You're close. It's about 250 now, but very close, very close.
I knew it'd be over 200. Brilliant. So for those of you joining us for the first time, as I say, we've got a live chat button that you should be able to see on your right-hand side. So please use that. Literally comments, questions, connections. If you want to post up your LinkedIn profile, normally we'd obviously all be at a physical event. We'll be able to do such things. So make the use of this online opportunity. On the right-hand side, you'll see the different tabs. Questions is the last button. You can also post up a question there to Magnus as well. Or as I say, you can use the live chat function. So a couple of options for you there. But we are talking, as I say, what to look for when investing. Magnus has got a little bit of experience in this, as I've just indicated, with a number of businesses that they've invested in. They've got a really unique way of investing in businesses, investing in startups, investing in entrepreneurs, essentially. And I'm going to hand over to Magnus to tell us a little bit about that. And then we'll dive in with some questions as well. But he's got quite a lot of learnings that he can share with us in this, very different world than it was back in February, March, when we were meeting up for businesses to pitch for investments and the such like. So Magnus, tell us a little bit about how the landscape's changed for you. I can imagine your air miles account is quite low at the moment.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's been a special year. I think the great thing, obviously, is what most people are interested in who are dialing in here and the area that we're in. If what we were doing was important 6-7 months ago, now it's critical that exceptional people disrupt, innovate, create new jobs, and become part of the path to recovery. So, we have I think, a very critical year where we've done a lot more than I think we would have done in a normal year. And the organization and the founders we work with is just tremendous to see the response to such a challenge. It's really got to, it's once in a generation this happens, and this is our time to step up and show what we can do.
Yeah, we certainly seem to have done that. That you haven't, been tripped up by any of these hurdles with regards to your global expansion plans. In fact, from the outside looking in, it looks like you have ramped things up, and you've seen that opportunity, and I can see. A lot of those businesses that you've invested in are helping solve a lot of the problems that have been thrown up by this pandemic.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. You're spot on.
Cool. Okay, so I'll let Magnus talk us through a little bit about some of the learnings that he's come across. And as I say, any questions, post them up as we go, and we will answer them in a short while.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Alex. And for everyone who's listening in and you haven't checked out Alex's podcast, you should. It's awesome.
Thank you.
So with that, let's just going to share a little bit about what we do and some of our learnings that can help you hopefully answer even more relevant questions that hopefully I can be helpful in answering. Antler, we've now expanded across the globe, and we're working really with entrepreneurs to build companies from scratch. So we are looking for exceptional people, not for exceptional companies, but we're looking for exceptional people who will build exceptional companies, and also some exceptional companies that we can invest in really early stage and support them in building their business. We've evaluated more than 50,000 entrepreneurs so far, supported more than 2,000 of them, built about 245 companies the last 18 months together with these exceptional people that we work with all across the globe. These are just some of the people who we've been lucky to support. And just wanted to share some of those learnings with you. I think learning number one is there's never been a better time to build a business. There are a number of reasons for that, but these I think are the most important. So number one, for the first time ever, we live in a truly global world. So, obviously with COVID, we see that quite clearly. COVID over a period of months obviously spread all across the globe and has created a bunch of issues. If you're building a business, you can do the same from really anywhere. If you think about the airline industry, it actually took the airline industry 62 years to get 50 million customers. It took COVID-19 only a few weeks to spread all across the globe. It took Pokemon Go a couple of weeks to get 50 million customers. It took Twitter 2 years. You can build B2B, B2C companies really out of anywhere right now and serve the entire globe, which I think is number one. Number two is disruption of technologies is happening faster than ever. So it actually used to be a time where for a century or two, the world would be driven by one technological change, whether that was a new type of metal or a new type of transportation. It would have this profound impact on the world for decades or centuries. We live now in the world where there's kind of 10 to 12 really advanced technologies that are going to disrupt a lot of our lives that are coming to the market at the same time, right? Whether it's artificial intelligence, used to be in the lab and not long ago, now it's come out and it's solving real problems. Internet of Things, small sensor technology, nanotechnology, genome technology, blockchain, you can go on and on and on. There's so many really interesting things that are really going to disrupt everything that we see around us. And exceptional people like you can take the opportunity to innovate around that. I think number three is the cost of building has gone down significantly. It's quite interesting if you look at research over the last kind of 50 years or so, it more or less, in all circumstances, costs a minimum about $50 million to build a multinational business. That's $50 million. Now, me and Alex and a couple of you who are listening in, we could get together, form a business plan, build a hardware prototype even if we need it, but software we can build even quicker and really start serving the globe in a much more cost-effective way and thereby scale much more rapidly and cost-efficient in the beginning, and then use capital more wisely to kind of raise to scale. Disruption is happening faster than ever. The average lifetime for S&P 500 company or Fortune 500 company used to be about half a century, only about 60 years ago. Now, if you become one of the biggest companies in the world, you typically last for about 12 years. And then there's obviously a number of kind of large unsolved problems in front of us versus whether it's kind of socioeconomic inequality, whether it's healthcare, whether it's that we see a lot of right now, or it's climate change, or a number of other topics. There are some really big unsolved problems out there for exceptional people to work on. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we're living in a new world. I find these images disturbing as well as fascinating. Obviously, the health toll that has been taken all around us this year has been insane, and a lot of that could have been avoided and can be avoided in the future by exceptional people innovating. On top of that, this is actually a line from a food stamp queue in the US, the world's most richest country, where unemployment rate has gone up significantly, and you see the same all across the globe. So if what we are doing was important, as I mentioned earlier, 6 months ago, now it's critical. You have an obligation as an entrepreneur to succeed, and if you're thinking about building something that will innovate and marginally help the world become a better place, hire people, create value, you should go and do it. Now is the time. So, to recap, we got a lot of learnings out of doing what we're doing. Out of the 245 companies we built, we only have a 10% failure rate, which is pretty low. So we always ask ourselves, why then does 93% of startups fail for what I'd say is, I'll say it's stupid reasons or very, very basic reasons. And I think it's just because people take a few of these topics not serious enough. So let me share some learnings with you. So some of them are quite evident, right? Ensure that you prove your skill set as a founder. And you're not born a founder. This is skill sets and parts of you that you develop. And there are really three things that I think makes a great founder. Number one is that you have a spike, that there's some strength that you have, which is just better than most other people. And that could be a lot of different things. It could be that you're a great product builder, or you can go down into a very specific subject matters, or you like to come home on Friday night when everyone else goes out and sit and code and find solutions to your problems. Or it could be that you can walk into an elevator and become friends with everyone who's strangers in that elevator before it hit the bottom floor. So that's kind of a spike. Second is drive, which is very related to passion, that you find something you're passionate about working on and solving. And the third is grit, and this is really mental resilience, and that you can build over time, but there's also mental exercises as you pursue your entrepreneurship journey that will make you more mentally resilient. A lot of people don't become great founders necessarily because they were smarter than all the other people, but they were the ones who didn't give up. So the grit aspect is important. And the second thing is spending time putting together a great team. And the last part is just truly validating your business model and ensure it's solving a real problem. And I think a great team typically also is diverse. So both in terms of background and general quality, but more important that you have different skill sets, like the two Steves had to build Apple, solving a real problem. I think a great example was Microsoft. When they built Microsoft, they literally sold their first product to a B2B customer before they started writing a single piece of code. That's a great way of validating, and we have a lot of other advice on that. Then, few more learnings. Diversity important. I think part of the reason why our teams are so successful is we build companies with people from more than 70 nations. We have actually seen that when somebody who combines a team of somebody who comes from the nation in which they're building that with someone who's an immigrant or someone from somewhere else, you have this global mindset from day one. General quality, 40% of our teams have a female co-founder. 80% of them are female CEO. You get different perspectives on different types of problems. And by the way, you also access a much larger talent pool. The next point is front loading. This is, I think, so important as a founder. In the beginning, as a founder, it's only you. So whatever hour you spend on your Xbox or visiting your parents, instead of building your business, it's an hour lost to the business. So for the first couple of years, I have always thought that way myself, and I try to say that to all prospective entrepreneurs is ensure that you work incredibly hard to get us off the ground, because the only hours that are going to be put in are yours, and after a while your co-founders and so on. But after 2 years, you might have 1,000 employees, in which case, hopefully, if you hire the right people, your time becomes less relevant. So front load as an entrepreneur. Third is hustling. Nothing comes for free. as an entrepreneur. You need to go and talk to customers, people you want to hire, to investors. You need to talk to them many times. You will get way more no's than you will get yeses. But after a while, you start building that momentum. And I think the last part is part of this grit thing is don't pursue entrepreneurship as I'm going to try this and learn a bunch of stuff. Pursue entrepreneurship as I'm going to solve this problem, build a great business, and I'm not going to fail. I mean, this is not a learning journey. You're going to do this to be successful. And then if you happen to fail, then you have learned a lot. But if you come in with the mindset that you might just do this for the learning purposes, then you're going to fail from the outset. So those are kind of some major learnings from the entrepreneur journey. And I think if you actually just do these three things, ensuring that you yourself are prepared as a founder, you find a great co-founding team, and you're working on solving a great problem, you probably reduce the failure rate to about 20%. You're much more likely to succeed than not succeed, is our experience. Now, how do we help entrepreneurs in this journey? So, we work finding great founders. We work for 3 months on validating the business model, put together exceptional teams. Then we invest. Then we help create early momentum and get first customers on board. And then we continue to invest up until Series C, help getting good co-investors and so on. That's really what Ant does. We've supported a lot of companies. You might know some of them throughout the last few years, and very excited to continue to do so going forward. And for anyone who might be now looking at pursuing their entrepreneurial journey, go to amp.co and apply to our next board. We'd love to work with you and hopefully be helpful in ensuring that you build the next great business that is solving one of the world's largest problems.
Awesome. Thank you, Magnus. Yeah, Samantha's just said, that's insane. So many startups supported by you. It is insane. I didn't realize that it jumped that much as well. Have you found that since the pandemic's kicked in, you've obviously increased the number of physical locations you've got, but you've had to bring a lot of that online. How has that changed things for you? Do you think it doesn't look like, but has that stopped your momentum at all? Or do you just think the other factors, given that the world has gone online, has just accelerated your development and the number of businesses that you're investing in?
So, I think the interesting part there is there are obviously businesses who are addressing specific traditional industries that have suffered a lot this year, who have slowed down. Now, what you've seen in all of those circumstances, just look at Airbnb, who's going public now. But it's the same with early stage companies. We have a bunch of them in our portfolio who lost kind of 95, 96% of the revenue. But if the team is excellent and the problem is still relevant, investors out there still believe in the future potential. They more consider it as a pause in the development of the company. So, for example, we have this amazing company who just did their Series A at 3x valuation from only a few months ago, while having lost 97% of their revenue, which is great to see, because that means that even if you were unlucky in what ended up happening this year, you still have a bright future ahead. Now, I think really what has happened with those type of companies that have struggled is that the ones who weren't set up in the right way and didn't have enough traction and enough buy-in and enough trust in kind of the investor community, they are struggling, but they probably would have struggled anyways over a period of time. And then the other thing we've seen is obviously this big part of the economy that's just moved incredibly fast. So net, I think being an early stage venture capital investor this year, it's just highly relevant to the times that we're in. So we haven't seen much effect there. We put more effort into ensuring that our founders are safe, the communities that they work in are safe, our our team is safe, and then we launched our own COVID-19 initiative where we supported a number of companies build businesses related to solving problems related to the COVID-19 crisis. So, for example, just if you search for a company called Breathonics, it's a 60-second breath COVID test that we just supported out of Singapore, and been lucky to support a number of people within those spaces. I can't hear you now, Alex. I think while Alex is getting his volume back, I think if you have, it's a bit hard to hear you, Alex. Can't really hear you. Can you guys hear me when I talk? Yeah, you can hear me. Right, Alex, I think we still can't hear you. So I think while Alex is working on solving the microphone, another kind of interesting thing right now that I would encourage everyone to do is just think about if there are people in your networks and so on who for a very long period of time have considered pursuing entrepreneurship or going out there and solving a very relevant problem, really encourage them to do that right now. I think there are a number of interesting things on top of this being the path to recovery, which is incredibly important about entrepreneurship right now. One is it's a great opportunity to contribute to the local economies and the global economy in that sense. There are a lot of people now who need jobs. I think GDP needs an extra boost, and there is actually more capital available for early stage venture capital companies or early stage tech companies than ever, right? I mean, actually this year is close to becoming a record year for fundraising for funds. So the capital is there, the problems are there. Also, access to employees is now more readily available than in a very long time. So yeah, if anyone is considering nice time, and if you have friends who you think need a little bit of a push, then go out there and get them started on their journey. Alex, does your volume, does it work now?
Can you hear me? How's that? Brilliant. Okay. I was going to ask you, Magnus, so interested to know, when we spoke to last week, both Stepan Galiev, investment director at Dragon's Den, and also Stuart Chapman, founder at VC Draper Esprit, they both said that what they'd noticed was that the quantity had dramatically increased on the number of entrepreneurs looking for investment. But what surprised them a little bit, both of them said separately on separate webinars, that it was the quality of the applicants had increased as well.
I think you're spot on. You know, I think what ends up is you know, entrepreneurs are kind of spike individuals with dreams, and they want to make something happen. And what ends up, I think, happening in times like this, when you see the world going through so much change, is that this founder material and exceptional people who've been thinking about this for years are thinking more about the meaning of life, and more about, you know, what am I going to spend my life doing the next kind of decade? How am I going to contribute the next decade? Also, just spending more time with your family actually leads to you thinking about what world are our children going to grow up in, or seeing how precarious the life of our parents is. You know, how are their next decade going to be? So I think actually there's been this tremendous moral boost and reason for pursuing entrepreneurship this year that hasn't happened probably since the financial crisis, where I think the world goes a little bit of a similar shock. So hopefully, out of all the kind of terrible things that have happened this year, this might be one of the kind of positive side effects. I think we lost you again. So I got a question from Samantha. Emergers are facing challenges when it comes to finding funding. Otherwise, would you give new marks? So I think the interesting thing that is happening now is on this question from Samantha, there is most emerging ecosystems, they know about this. So there's a lot of things being done locally to ensure that is more funding coming into all relevant stages for startups and application. I think the other thing that is happening is that more VCs are looking globally and looking internationally. So actually in most occasions now, if you're building something that really makes sense to build and you're a great team, you will find the access to funding. Obviously, it's easier in more mature ecosystems. It's easier in the US than it is in Vietnam. But I think very soon in Vietnam, it will actually be equally as much access to funding as in most other ecosystems, and I really see that developing happening everywhere. And we operate in East Africa, and there are a lot of the Southeast Asian countries. And, this development is quite rapid. From the WhatsApp, Alex. I still can't hear Alex. Any other questions? You put it in the chat. So to work with Antler, it's quite straightforward. You just go to antler.com. There's a big red button that says apply, and then you apply and just go through that process. And you know, we're quite excited about working with entrepreneurs from all types of backgrounds. It's getting harder and harder to get our investment. We now get a few thousand applicants per program, where we typically select about 100. But we are running those all across the globe now. So if you want to check out our website and apply, just go ahead. Yeah, I got one more question here from Taz. Yeah, thank you. So what is important when you're doing something like Antler is it's quite different from other businesses. So I can talk through a couple of scaling scenarios, right? I've been part of a few. So with Antler, you need incredible people in every location that you're in that is preferably as strong and good as you are. So the way we have really set up Antler is as a partnership. So we have incredibly strong individuals in each location. So the quality of working with us and the quality of our investment team in New York should be equally strong as in Singapore. So that's a lot of our focus. And then at the same time, building a learning machine where if we learn something in Stockholm, that will benefit everyone else in the world, so that we can continuously be a better partner to our founders. And then we built a tech system called Amplifusion, where we now are building access to a few thousand early stage investors across the globe. So when our portfolio companies want to do their next funding round, we can put them in contact with the right people. That founders can connect with each other. So for example, we have this week our first fintech sector gathering with fintech companies in our portfolio from all across the globe. We can share ideas and so on. So there are two parts really to what we're doing. One is finding amazing people, and the second is benefiting really from those network effects. Now, I built another company before called Solora, which was an e-commerce company. And that e-commerce company, we scaled in a quite different way. It was, platform, which had high capex, but required a lot of customers to become profitable. So we literally just, expanded to about 8 countries at the same time, ensure that we build one tech system that we can use in all these different countries, and then we hire very specific resources that serve a regional role. So meaning, if you want to do SEM in Vietnam, it's not all that different from doing SEM in the Philippines. It's just different keywords. So there are certain types of positions that you can keep regional, and then you ensure that you have very strong executing team and leadership on the ground in each country that you launch. And then obviously there are other ways, which I have been part of before, where you are much kind of single market focused, but then you just need to ensure that your market is big enough, right? So for example, there are very few markets in the world actually where you can build $1 billion business in one market. So probably most of you would be looking at kind of scaling outside, and should consider where you do kind of one country by one country like we did with Antler, or you do everyone at once like we did with Solora. And I think it really depends on your business model.
Thank you so much for that. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but very weakly.
Okay.
But I can hear you, so.
Is that better than Alex? I'm not sure.
But I'm getting questions there, so I can answer these ones. So Thank you for the question, Pat. Let's see. I'm going to answer now the question from Anita. What are your top 3 tips for being resourceful and identifying financial boost opportunities using online portals? So, I'm not sure if I fully answered the question, but obviously, I mean, I'm not sure if I fully answered the question. Anita, please clarify if I can be clearer. But I think there's obviously an advantage in building platforms. So a lot of people out there build platforms, whether it's a portal or an e-commerce company or Google Play Store or whatever it is. Now, where there are a lot of, and these get a lot of attention, right? These are all brand names like Stripe, like Google, like Amazon, Lazada, Shopee for the people here in the region, Alibaba in China. Now, there's a really thriving startup ecosystem, sometimes highly profitable, that comes alongside these platforms. They are, either servicing the members of a marketplace. It could be like, for example, the logistics company is probably the most evident one, but there are also other ones that are not so evident. Like, for example, think about all the pictures that you have online for e-commerce companies. There's a lot of money to be made in that industry. So I think what is interesting is once you see this big platform playing out, is to figure out, is there a less sexy part of this whole ecosystem where there won't be that many people operating, and coming on in there and seeing where you can create a ton of value. And I think more and more you'll see very kind of successful ecosystems doing this. For example, there was been a couple of IPOs in the US over the last few months of people who really been focused on supporting companies get on the cloud or move from one cloud to another cloud or solve specific things in the cloud. Literally, the platform they're utilizing is, one of the big platforms, whether it's Amazon, Google, or Microsoft, or in China it could be Alibaba or Tencent's platform. But they're still creating a lot of value for themselves by supporting people utilizing that platform in a more effective way, and therefore capturing value. So there's great opportunities there.
Can you hear me now, Magnus?
Yeah, perfect.
I'm back online. Fantastic. So I'm guessing you've already sort of following up on the question. So I need to probably catch up. There was a question about BAME. Female BAME entrepreneurs struggling to get finance. Have you already answered that one?
I didn't. Can you repeat the question?
So the question is, it's relating, I'll find it. So basically, people from BAME backgrounds, and specifically females from BAME background, being underrepresented when it comes to being successful in getting funding. What is it that you look for yourself when you're going out and investing in businesses?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic question, and the world is losing out tremendously because it's not being a case. It's true. And if you look at the US only, I think something like 3% of venture capital went to female founders. 3%. That means 97% went to male founders. And also, if you look at minorities, it's similar kind of really bad numbers. That not only needs to change from a fairness perspective and from an ethical perspective, but it needs to change because there's so much value being lost, right? I mean, in all senses and purposes, given that there are 50% women out there, 50% men, there's this huge part of the talent pool which is not being utilized. I think part of the reason, some of this is kind of legacy, and some of it is that there are too many investors out there who invest based on the pitch. Like you meet a person 4, 5, or 6 times, and then you tend to, however good people are kind of neutralizing themselves, they tend to relate investment decisions back to their own experiences. So people invest in people who talk and act more similar to themselves. That is a widely known phenomenon, which is crazy. So what we are doing is we spend 3 months together with the founders that we're working with before we make an investment decision, which means that we make investment decisions much more based on intrinsics, based on how great that founder is, which I think is why we've ended up with such a diverse set of founders. I mean, I think the latest statistics is 40% of our portfolio companies have a female co-founder. 80% of that 40% has a female CEO. We build companies with people from more than 70 nations, all socioeconomic backgrounds. Doesn't matter for us really if you grew up in a slum in Mumbai and has amazing founder potential, or if you went to Eton and then to Oxford, Cambridge, and then worked for Goldman Sachs and then built the business, and now you're building your next one. We care about the intrinsic. We care about the spike, the drive, and the grit. And that I think has led to this diversity. And this will be an advantage for any venture capital investor who's doing this. It will be a major advantage. Now, the people out there who have experiences related to this, where it's been difficult. I think this is hopefully changing now, and we're trying to do what we can to do it. Just kind of chug on, go out there, build, and I'm sure this will work out incredibly well in the future if you just have the grit. And then if we can be helpful in any way, reach out to us. And I know also it's high up on the agenda of most venture capital companies these days. So I think you're in, hopefully things will get better over the next few years, but that's how we think about it. Okay, I think we lost the festival people again. Let's see. I'm going to see if I can find some more questions.
Sorry, yeah.
Hey.
It's not. We're not having a good day today. I've got another question here, Magnus, for you.
Yeah.
It's all about, why is it that people won't invest in sole founder businesses? Why is there no appetite for sole founder businesses when it comes to investment? Why is it better to have more people on a new startup than it is to have just one person?
So it's just statistics. So if you look at the chance of success building a business, the highest chance of success is if you have a co-founding team of 2 to 3 founders. Success actually goes slightly down if you have 4 or 5, and it goes down further if you have 1. That said, so it's just based on statistics, and I think part of that is just one thing is there's one founder, something happens to that founder, the business very often suffers. If you don't have a team with different skill sets, I think it's so important to look at co-founders with different skill sets from yourself. So you lose all that. But that said, we invest in founders. It's just harder to get our investment because you need to have a lot of characteristics. Otherwise, we're a 2-person team. So there are stories of small founders having built great businesses. Because I think you have to mute yourself because there's a echo from your mic. Perfect. So there are some exceptional businesses built by single founders, and we support single founders. And if you find an incredible person, if you solve some important problem, chance started it first, you'll find other incredible people to build a business with over time. So we still want to support them. It's just harder, and that's why it's hard to get investment. And it's literally just due to statistics, right? In the same way as if you have if you have a medical problem, let's say you have a heart problem, you're better off going to a heart doctor than you are going to a generalist. But a generalist is probably still better than going to me, right? So it's like, based on experience, you know that it's kind of a higher chance to succeed. But at the same time, I might be able to help you with something, so that's how we basically look at it.
Brilliant, fantastic. Well, one of the questions I wanted to ask myself was, when you look at sort of starting a business, and it was interesting, Piers Linney talked about this. He said, when you go and meet an investor and you're looking to invest in a business and you turn up in a posh suit, an expensive watch, an expensive car, but you're asking someone to invest in your business, but you're out there living a life of luxury, but you want to start a business. And what's more important? Is it experience or is it the hunger and drive to succeed?
I think the hunger and drive to succeed is by far the most important. When that's said, right, I don't think that's necessarily tied into, I've seen incredibly kind of hungry and driven individuals who come from nothing. Like, I mean, I grew up on the farm where there was no people, but there was also, I mean, there was a lot of people in the place where I grew up who was also not driven. And then I have people who grow up in incredibly kind of wealthy environments who are really driven, and then there are people who grew up in those environments who are not driven. And think about it, like, well, Elon Musk, obviously, when he built the first company, PayPal, he was, came from humble beginnings. But when he built this second company, he had an expensive watch and an expensive car. So I think that doesn't matter all that much. What matters is that you have a clear spike, that you have the drive and the passion for what you're doing, and that you have grit. And you can very quickly see that in the founders, particularly if you spend enough time with them. But I think the good thing with this is that given kind of where ecosystems are now and where Antler is right now, some of that playing field has been leveled. So there are, if you get a great investor on board early in your company, or if you get someone like Antler on board early in your company, you can help provide some of that network, some of that access to tier 1 VCs, insights, the right advisors, the right board members, some of those people who, if you went to the right school or your parents had the right, money, they might have already. But I think that is getting less and less relevant. So I think, coming from more spoiled upbringing or more networked upbringing is becoming less and less relevant. So there's kind of a democratization of entrepreneurship happening right now through organizations and setups like ourselves, which is just incredibly important, because in the end, like, we want to see more of the world's most exceptional people, no matter where they come from, innovate and create great companies. And we have seen people from all walks of life having that spike, that drive, and that grit.
Very true and very, very interesting. You've got to have drive and ambition to reach your goals, and without that key ingredient, it's very difficult to make things work. But the other thing I wanted to touch on, we've talked about sort of diversity in investments and people getting investment. How easy is it for someone on the older side of the scale, so someone maybe 50, 60 plus that's looking to get investment? Are they more likely to get investment because of their experience, or would you say, investors may look at it to think, is there a long-term strategy here?
Mute again because there's some echo again now. Yeah, perfect. So I think the same thing there is like, don't differentiate on age. Like, I know people who are in their 60s that are way more active, way more driven, and know much more about technology than some of my friends who are in their 20s. Right? So it's like, again, you're just likely to have more energy, likely to have more drive, likely to have more, when you're a bit younger, but you have more experience when you're older. And some people who are older just, it's so, I wouldn't one should never discriminate ever based on people's traits and characters, their age or where they come from or how they look like or their ethnicity or which schools they went to or where they grew up or their gender or their sexuality or whatever it is. Because in all types of groups, you have those people. Like, I was reading this on, what is it, the Beyond Meat or Impossible Food, can't remember which one, but like one of these guys started a company when it was in the 60s, right? And it's changing the world. So yeah, it's just harder, I guess. If you're 80 or 90 years old, it's harder to have that, but there are people who have it.
Well, the Colonel founded KFC at 65, didn't he? So there's always hope.
Yeah,
it's never too late to go out there and achieve your goals and live your dream. I've got a question here from Samantha. Impact investment is on the rise. How does Antler look at impact investing, and are sustainable business models something you?
For sure. So the way we look at it is we don't want to help build any company or invest in any company that doesn't positively impact one of the UN SDGs, right? And why is that the case? So, because why would anyone spend time building something if it isn't making the world a better place, right? And yes, I know consumers are buying stuff that makes their life worse, like heroin and stuff, right? That will sell like crazy if you start a heroin company. And I know people are buying, guns and all these types of things, but that's not the business we're in. We want to be in the business of supporting founders that are positively impacting the world in some way or another. And then some are impacting it in a small way, and some are impacting it in a huge way. But everyone should have a positive impact. So that's number one. Number two is all the stuff I talked about in terms of diversity. Number three is 25% or so of our portfolio is what you would call more double impact type companies. They are not only are they making the world slightly better, but they're trying to make it much better. And I think the great thing that have happened there is that there are so many opportunities right now, given consumer change, perception change, how companies are changing, how serious they take these issues, that has made this an incredibly attractive place to invest at the same time as it has a tremendously positive impact on the world. So, that will just continue to grow. And, we sign up to the UNPRI ESG investment framework, so we report back on our ESG impact. We do as much as we can to invest in people who are excited about that space. There's one thing that is important with what we're doing is we're not a charity, so we don't invest in something if we don't also believe that it would be a great business. And that, I think, is actually, not only is that of course necessary towards our investors and our LPs, but it also makes for more impact. It makes for better companies. If you can do something which is solving a big problem at the same time, do it in a way where you're profitable, it means you can invest more money in there, grow, become more impactful. Like, for example, imagine the difference of giving like $10 billion to people to build electric cars versus investing 10 billion into Tesla. The impact that Tesla will have on the world is just much bigger than if the Norwegian government said, hey, we're going to give $10 billion to people to buy electric cars, right? So it's a major difference.
Thank you so much, Magnus. I think we're coming close to the end now. So are there any closing thoughts you want to leave us with in terms of, some summary of all the things you've talked about today?
Yeah, so you know, diamonds are formed under intense pressure, and we have this incredible kind of opportunity right now to not only build great businesses, but have a tremendously positive impact on the world and be part of the path to recovery. That's number one. So I just encourage everyone to do that. I think number two is building a business is hard, but once you've done it and you see that platform growing and you see the positive impact you have on your customers' life, whether it's businesses or consumers, and you have created this, it's incredibly powerful. So for anyone who's tried 1 or 2 times and didn't work, just go at it again. For anyone who hasn't done it yet and are a little bit afraid of kind of living in a tent for a couple of years, which is what I call being a founder, just go ahead and do it, because the reward just way outstrip the cost. And I'm not talking about the monetary reward, which obviously also can be very high, but you know, just a sense of purpose. So go out there. Apply now.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Magnus. Really appreciate you tuning in all the way from Singapore. I'm sure the weather's a lot nicer there than it is here in the UK. We had our first frost last night, so you know it's getting chilly here, but I'm sure it's nice and tropical where you are.
Yeah. No, it's good here. Thanks a lot.
Brilliant. Thank you. And thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. We've got loads of content for the rest of this week. We had a fantastic week last week. Alex Chisnell, hopefully, will be back at midday today to talk to you all about the best platforms to create your content for free. And then we've also got a masterclass on how to build your site for success. So if you're looking about building a website, you want some advice on how to build a website, we've got loads of fantastic content. You know, tomorrow is all about social media, digital marketing. So please do check out the sessions that we've got available. Do encourage other people that you know that are looking to start up a business. There's just so much fantastic content. We've got wonderful people like Magnus who are sharing all of their fantastic experience, their knowledge with you guys completely free. So, you know, take advantage of it and look forward to catching up with you all soon. Thank you so much, and thank you, Magnus. Take care. Have a great day.